Now you're going to see real quick after I read this scripture why I said that was A and my message is starting out at Z. And before I get a bunch of strange looks, I do have pastoral permission to talk about what I'm going to talk about in this message. So if you'll stand for the reading of God's Word, grab your Bible, turn to the Gospel of John, St. John, chapter number 1. I'll read 2 verses in your hearing, verse number 45 and verse number 46. When you have John 1:45, say amen. If you're waiting on Brother Ben, say put it up there, Brother Ben. And the Bible reads, Philip findeth Nathanael, and saith unto him, We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said unto him, Can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? And Philip said unto him, Come and see. I'm going to repeat the middle of verse number 46. Can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? With the help of the Lord, I'm going to preach to you on this message titled, Straight Out of Nazareth. Brother Leo, would you ask the Lord's blessing on this message? All right, quick question. You can be seated. By the raising of your hand, how many people have heard of the music group NWA? Okay, so you know. Hands up. How many of you listened to NWA when you were a kid? NWA, okay, it's an acronym. I'm not going to tell you what it means. If you look it up, I'm telling you this. Get ready for a culture shock and a lot of vulgarity. So you shouldn't listen to anything that NWA ever produced. I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to read what I actually wrote because I want to get this all in and I can't remember it all. But in 1986, an up-and-coming rap group using the acronym NWA appeared on the music scene, capturing the self-indulgent criminal life of gangs, drugs, and violence in the Southern California slums. In doing so, they became one of the most notorious groups in the history of rap music, even being labeled the most dangerous group in the world by the FBI. In 1988, NWA released their album, Straight Outta Compton, a brutally intense record with true-life lyrics of the violent lifestyle in the Compton district of Los Angeles, California. The record would sell 1.5 million units. Not a lot by today's standard, but remember, NWA didn't get played on the radio, NWA didn't get played on MTV, and they still sold 1.5 million units of that record. This left them in superstar status. Why? Because people related to their knocked down, kicked around, and left behind life story. But long before NWA used true-to-life lyrics to rise to superstardom, a young man appeared on the scene. His true life story and inspiration would be recorded and sell more than 5 billion, with a B, billion copies. 20 million copies are sold annually in the United States alone, making it the #1 bestseller in world history year after year after year. The book's title, the Bible. The man's name, Jesus, and he was straight out of Nazareth. Nazareth, the boyhood home of Jesus, was an uncelebrated, forgotten town off the beaten path in Lower Galilee. Population around 200. I gotta read it for its lower economic and social standards, it made it easy for anyone from Nazareth to be despised and rejected. So we have to ask the question, why would the God of all creation, who lived in a place so beautiful that human minds cannot imagine its wonder and glory, choose a place so insignificant and so poverty-stricken that most of society didn't even recognize its existence? The first century Jewish historian Josephus, who listed 45 cities in Galilee, did not mention Nazareth once. The Talmud, a Jewish historic writing that listed 65 cities in the Galilean region, did not mention Nazareth. In fact, Nazareth isn't even mentioned in the Old Testament. Not one time will you ever read the word Nazareth in the Old Testament. So why? Why did he do this? Most theologians will simply tell you it was so the prophecy of Isaiah 53:3 could be fulfilled, which states he was despised, rejected of men, a man of sorrow and adequate with grief. And that's true. The prophecy had to be fulfilled. But I'm here to tell you tonight that there's a much more personal reason than the theologians will tell you about. And that is because he simply loves you. He chose Nazareth for his home because he loved you. What are you talking about, preacher? It's easy to be despised and rejected. I go out on real thin ice and say that there is not a person in this room that has never dealt with heartache and hurt feelings. Is there anybody? Because it's part of life. And here's what I'm talking about. Every one of us. We know the kid on the playground who didn't get picked for the pickup game of basketball. We know the kid that got made fun of because he was too fat, too thin, too short, or too tall. He had the wrong colored hair and maybe had freckles on his face. We know what it's like to get made fun of at work because you won't buy the block square for the Super Bowl party because you think gambling's still a sin. We know what it's like to get made fun of when we walk out on the beach and it's 102 and the pants still come to our ankles because we think God takes no pleasure in a man's legs. Hey, I know sisters, you go through it too. They make fun of you at the office because the skirt still falls below the knees, because the hair don't get snipped and the grays don't get dyed. When you stand for holiness and righteousness, it's easy to be despised and rejected. And he had to know. He left the portals of glory. Think about this for 1 minute. You can't imagine how your mind can't fathom how beautiful heaven is. Think about this for a second. The most beautiful place that you've ever seen in your life. Maybe you've seen it in person. Maybe you've only seen it on TV. But think about that place for 1 minute. I've seen the sunset over the Gulf of Mexico, cotton candy clouds. It'll take your breath away. But it's a garbage dump compared to what heaven's going to look like. And he left that to go to a poverty-stricken, run-down place to call home. He lived on the wrong side of the tracks. He was where no one wanted to go. 8 miles uphill was Jerusalem. But they didn't even recognize Nazareth. They walked right past it. They didn't talk about it. They didn't mention it. If you were from Nazareth, you were nothing. Just like the men from NWA, he used that no place in life, hard knocks lifestyle to rise up. Why? Because he knew you would have to endure that in life. He knew that one day he was going to be stripped naked, tied to a whipping post outside of Pilate's judgment hall in the common area. I know the pictures show a little robe. He was wearing nothing. They stripped you naked. It was to humiliate you. He was tied to a whipping post. And all he was thinking was, I I love them so much. I don't want them to have to endure that. I'm going to make a way of escape for their heartache and their pain and the agony of their hurt feelings. And it's easy for us to think about it. We read about it all the time. By his stripes, we are healed. You are healed. You are healed by his stripes. He paid that price at Calvary. But we instantly think, hey, he heals cancer and diabetes and multiple sclerosis and heart disease, and he opened blind eyes, and he made deaf people hear, and he healed the lame and they walked. Hey, he talked to dead people and they lived, and he talked to a tree and they died. We know he did all that. We know he took that stripe. But how many times do we think about the most brutal pain that we feel as human beings? Heartbreak, hurt feelings. It happens day in and day out our entire life. And we build it up inside. And you don't have to. Because at Calvary, while he was naked, tied to that whipping post, when that Roman soldier pulled out that big nasty scourge they called the cattails and nine, and it cracked, and the flesh tore, and the blood spilled, he said, I did that one for you, so you don't have to endure the heartache, so you don't have to go through the heartache, so you don't have to have the hurt feelings, because he knew what it was going to be like for a brother or a sister in the church to stab a knife in your back, begin to run around and talk trash on you. And church hurt is real. And he knew that was real. He did it for you. He had to make a way of escape for you. It's one of the most misquoted scriptures in the Bible. You can find it in 1 Corinthians. He did not say he would not put more on you than you can bear. He said he would make a way of escape for you. You do not have to endure the pain and the agony of hurt feelings and broken hearts, regardless if it happened in elementary school, regardless if it happened on the job yesterday. Hey, I know what it's like, because they point and make fun of me all the time. I got Clester's corner at work. They call me pastor. They don't even know the difference. They want to talk about this and they want to talk about that. Most of the time it's the Catholics and the Baptists, and they want me to intervene and end their argument. And neither of them like what I have to say at the end of the day anyway. But I hear it all the time. They call me the names. I'm a Jesus freak. I'm the religious guru guy. Do you hear it? They'll call you that. Give them time if they don't. When you're living for God and they see that holiness and righteousness, they're going to pick it out and they're going to use it to run you down. I promise you, the world will run you down when you stand for truth. When you stand for holiness and righteousness, and it shows in the way you live every single day. Someone's going to hurt your feelings. They're going to break your heart, and it hurts. And there is nobody in here that can tell me it doesn't, because I've been there and you've been there, and it hurts. It hurts more than the broken arm and the banged up knees. It hurts more than the sleepless nights because my back hurts. It hurts. It's real. And he chose Nazareth because he had to know what it was like to live and feel those conditions, so that when he went to Calvary, he knew exactly what he was taking that stripe for that Roman whip from. He was doing it so he can make a way of escape for your grief, for your agony and your pain. Now, I wasn't going to tell this story, but my true-to-life story. Some people are going to chuckle because they're going to know about this. They're going to know the story. Mom's going to know, and Aunt Marcy will know some things about it. My family will know about this. I grew up in Ohio's finest village, McDonald, Ohio. It's nearly a gated community. I used to joke with the guys I worked with from Youngstown and Warren, because they would talk about which town was worse to live in, and I told them, you ain't done nothing till you walk down the mean streets of McDonald after dark. But listen, McDonald has two parts of town. There's the village of McDonald. If you're standing on the east side of McDonald Avenue, and if you step to the left, you're in what's known as Hilltop. Hilltop is where the lower part of society lives, in the village of McDonald. It's the lower income, less fortunate people. You may see a car up on the blocks missing its tires. Chickens run loose in the street. Dogs are tied to boxes and they bark at the guy running out the back door with your TV. It wasn't the part of town that you wanted to live in.
Nobody really steals stuff.
It's where I grew up. We joke about it now. I got buddies. We all moved to the village when we got good paying jobs. We bought houses down there so our kids didn't have to grow up on Hilltop. But hey, we still joke. We tell them all the time, you can take the boy off the hill, but you can't take the hill out of the boy. At heart, we're still going to build a tire fire on a Friday night. I don't drink the beer anymore, but you can drive by and I guarantee there's a bonfire and some knucklehead's throwing a car tire in there and the thing's smoking and burning up because they're just nuts like that down there on the other side of the tracks. But I grew up there. I knew what it was like to get made fun of from where I came from. But I'm proud of that now. And listen, the Bible left us with hundreds of examples of the same thing. We grow up in a less fortunate part of town, but we rise up and we become something because we keep our faith and our trust in Jesus Christ. And it's exactly what he did. It's the example that he set. It's why he chose to be straight out of Nazareth, that forsaken town in the middle of nowhere Galilee that nobody wanted to go to, that nobody wanted to talk about, that no one wanted to be friends with if you lived in Nazareth. But he left other examples. How about a lady in the Bible? We always refer to her, the Bible always refers to her as Rahab the harlot. Rahab the harlot. They don't mention her name without mentioning her profession. Why on earth did Rahab the harlot live in that tiny apartment wall on the walls of Jericho? It was custom for a young woman, unmarried, to live with her family till she was given in marriage by her father. Her father rejected her, therefore she lived on the walls of the city of Jericho because of her profession. And they referred to her over and over and over as Rahab the harlot. Guess what? She's in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Because when they were going to take over Jericho, she hid the spies. Her bravery saved her and the family that rejected her from sure death. They would have killed her. But because she made a deal with the Israelite spies, I'll hide you, but you'll remember my family when you take over the city. She saved her family. Rejected by them, but yet saved them from sheer death. How about a lady named Ruth? Ruth was a Moabitess. A Moabitess, no one wanted to hang out with the Moabitess. Their bloodline came from incest. They were inbred. She was a Moabitess. Even after Ruth's husband died, her loyalty to her mother-in-law ended her up back in Israel. She was gleaning in the fields, gleaning, scavenging for food to feed her family when she caught the eye of King Boaz, who took her to wife. For the rest of her life, her family lived in royalty because of her loyalty. She came from nowhere, despised and rejected by man and by society, but she rose to royalty. And then there's Esther. Esther. She's real important in the Bible. Esther was a Jewish girl working as a chambermaid for the Persian queen. Her family cast her out into servitude with the Persian Empire. When the Persian queen messed up and wouldn't obey the king, he went looking for a new bride. And guess who he found? He found Esther. He took so much favor in Esther that he would have given her anything she wanted. And one day, an evil man named Naaman wanted to destroy the entire Jewish population in Persia. They had brought them in captivity. They were there, and they were going to kill them all. He built gallows in the middle of the city to hang them on. When Esther found out, she boldly approached the king. This was unheard of. simply could have said, no one walks into my presence unannounced, off with your head. But he loved her, and he cherished her because she was good to him, because she was faithful to him. He said, what is it you want, Esther? She explains the story. Not only did Esther save the entire Jewish race of people, they hung Naaman on the gallows that he built to destroy them. Because of her loyalty and bravery, she was despised, rejected, cast out, and working as a servant. And she rose to greatness and saved her people. Gentlemen, how about Joseph? Did anybody ever get more despised than Joseph? His brothers despised him so much, they sold him into slavery and told his dad that a wild beast killed him. Joseph ends up down in Egypt. He's in the house of Potiphar, and everything that Joseph touches blossoms. It prospers. He can't do no wrong. Then Potiphar's wife, the lion floozy, tries to hook up with him. Joseph wants nothing to do with this because he's loyal to his master, Potiphar. She tells a bunch of lies, says he basically tried to rape me, Potiphar. He obviously didn't believe her or he would have had him killed. But he ended up in the prison. Joseph doesn't give up down there. He keeps praying. What happens? His dreams and interpretations get him out of the prison. He ends up second in command of the entire country of Egypt. And because of his loyalty and his faithfulness and his determination, he saves his family that sold him into slavery from starvation, and with it the entire country of Egypt, because he knew to save up the grain because the famine was coming. How about one of my favorites, David? David was a ruddy lad of fair countenance. He was in the field with his father Jesse's sheep when Samuel showed up and said, I'm here to anoint the next king of Israel. Jesse, get your boys. They lined him up. They paraded him in front of Samuel. Guess where they left David? His father didn't think enough of him to bring him out of the field. He left him with the sheep in the field. He was rejected by his own father. He didn't recognize him worthy enough to be his son in front of the prophet of God. He left him in the field. He was despised and rejected. David, he crumbles the giant Goliath like a saltine cracker with one little stone. Whacks off his head with his own sword. He goes on to become one of the greatest warriors in the history of warriors. They sang his praises. Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000. The man was an enemy slaying machine, anointed by the Lord. He was rejected by his father. He is a man after God's own heart is what we refer him as. He became one of the greatest kings in the history of kings. There is none greater than David outside of Jesus Christ, the Lord of Lords and King of Kings himself. David was a great man and led his people to great things, but he was despised and rejected by his father. What are you telling us? I'm telling you that I know the hurt's real. I know that because of where you grew up, maybe though you didn't wear the designer clothes, you didn't get the Nike or the Adidas shoes. I know what it's like to be made fun of. I know what it's like to be put down because of where you live. I know what you feel when you get made fun of because you stand for righteousness and holiness on the job. And when they see you dressed a little funny on the beach, they make fun of you. The fingers point. I know, sisters. I know what it's like when it's cold outside and, well, I don't know because I don't wear skirts, but you know. He had to know. He chose Nazareth, a place that was rejected by society because he knew that at some point in every one of our lives, we would face the hurt and the heartache of broken, as Natalie used to say when she was a little girl, broken feelings and hurt hearts. She got it backwards all the time. He knew what it was going to be like. He had to know. He had to live through that. He had to walk that every day. He was the son of a carpenter. They weren't thought real highly of. David was a shepherd. They referred to Jesus as the good shepherd. There was no occupation lower in societal chains than that of a shepherd. No one wanted to be around the shepherds, but yet that's what David was, and he became the greatest king on earth. That's what Jesus is referred to, the good shepherd. They were despised and rejected. They had hurt feelings. They didn't choose them to go preach in the synagogues on Sunday. That's what the Pharisees and the Sadducees did. They didn't pick them out to go do that. They were despised and rejected, and they endured hurt. He endured heartache, and he took it to that whipping post at Pilate's judgment hall, and he took a stripe from that nasty cattails and nine, just so you don't have to endure that. So listen, I'm almost done, Brother Austin. I don't know where you're at and what you're doing. All I'm here to tell you tonight is this. He chose to be straight out of Nazareth. He could have grown up in the most glorious town in that part of the country in that time frame. He could have lived in royalty. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns the 1,000 hills. Heaven has pearly gates, gold streets, and jasper walls. And he left it all to come out of a place so deprived, so poverty-stricken, where the people were knocked down, kicked around, left behind, and forgotten. Where the people were made fun of, where they weren't talked to, where no one wanted to be around them. And he did it because he knew that at one point in your life, it was going to happen to you. He knew that it would happen tomorrow. He knows that you're going to go through it over and over and over again. And he said, I'm going to make a way. I'm going to make a way for them to escape that hurt, that heartache, and that pain. He said, I'm going to take stripes on my back so that they don't have to endure that. As much as he heals any disease you can think of, the miraculous happens, and nothing on earth hurts more than a broken heart and hurt feelings. And yet he took a stripe for you. He endured it all so that you could bring it to him at an altar and leave it there. He made the way. He paid the price. Here's how easy it is. You walk up here and you say, Lord, I'm not sick and tired of hurting. I'm tired of being run down. I'm tired of having a broken heart. I'm tired of thinking I'm nothing. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of anxiety, Lord. I'm tired of wondering what I'm going to do tomorrow. Am I going to cry myself to sleep tonight? I'm going to use a personal day because I don't want to go into work tomorrow. I'm going to fake a bellyache because I don't want to go to school because someone's going to run me down. Someone's going to hurt my feelings. And I don't know if I can deal with another day. And I'm here right now to tell you, you don't have to deal with another day. You don't have to deal with another minute because he chose to be straight out of Nazareth. Because he took the pain, he took the hurt, he took it to Calvary, he took a stripe on his back with that nasty cattails and nine. And believe me, that thing wasn't pretty. And the damage it caused, it's brutal. Look a picture up of what that thing even does to you when it cracks across your body. It just destroys your flesh. It rips meat as it rips off, and blood splat. It's gruesome. You can't show pictures, it'll scare the kids. He did it for you. All you have to do, because he made the way of escape, because he chose to be straight out of Nazareth, because he chose to grow up on the wrong side of the tracks, because he knows what it's like to live in glory, and he knows what it's like to be run down, kicked around, left behind, forgotten, hurting day in, hurting day out, made fun of, and put down. Maybe it's because of a physical feature, maybe it's because of your spiritual beliefs and what you stand for, but all you have to do is bring it to an altar and tell him, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. He made a way of escape for you. All you have to do is leave it here. It's that simple. Lord, I'm sick and tired of feeling this way. I'm sick and tired of hurting. I'm sick and tired of not wanting to get up in the morning. I'm sick and tired of feeling that I'm not worthy of anything. I know that I am a child of the Most High. I have royal blood running through my veins. Lord, I need you to take away my pain and hurt because you made a way. He made a way for you. It's that simple. When you put it on an altar and leave it there, you can walk away with joy and peace and happiness and love and all the good things of Jesus Christ. It's all free to you because He chose